Bring the meeting to order, please. This is a joint meeting of the Advisory Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen. Before I turn it over to the chairman of the Budget Committee, I'd like to make a motion to approve, enter the minutes of the Select Board from October 30th and October 2nd. If I can get a second.
Second.
Thank you. So approved.
Has the change been made that Pat wasn't here?
I believe it was, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
So
that was correct.
I'll turn it over now to Chairman of the ABC, Mr. Murdoch.
All right. Do we have the Conservation Commission? Excellent.
We do.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bill Hum from the Conservation Commission, the chair. This year, we are requesting an appropriation of $0.
Thank you.
Can you come back again, it's under other departments?
We have sufficient funds remaining in our account to see us through the remainder of this year and the upcoming year. So,
Well, that's unacceptable.
very well. $30,000.
You listening, Bill?
It might be a little bit soft.
Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question. Speaking of, with respect to the trust funds, land acquisition, land use change funds, do you have any visions of anything that's exciting that you're looking at this time?
We don't have anything imminent. There are a couple of things that are possibilities, but one never knows from month to month whether they will materialize or not. So if they do, then we would come to town meeting with a warrant article requesting the use of some of those funds for either outright acquisition or the purchase of a conservation easement.
Thank you. That's all for me.
Okay. We're all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Quick.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Larry's gonna ask for nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe, John, just maybe.
Recreation?
Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, but
Just maybe.
Just maybe.
But then again,
Larry Kinberg, Chairman of the Recreation Commission. At the moment. I assume you have a copy of our request for this year? Okay. What we did was, we voted on making some changes to our budget. A couple things going on with the Rec Commission. Very popular program this year was Music in the Park. We want to expand upon that for next year. We're looking at getting sponsorships to help offset some of the cost of that. So primarily with the fact that we're thinking about bringing in some sort of food for that event. We did drop off of the outdoor movie night, which we had on there last year for $1,200. So we deleted that. That program did not work out very well. Let's see here. The Easter egg hunt, we added $200 for that because of the cost of candy and prizes, gifts have gone up. The fishing derby, we kept the same as last year at $1,700. That seemed to work out okay. The Model Rocket Day, we had for $500. We're increasing that to $750 because that too is becoming a very popular program. We had about 60 participants again this year, and we keep getting very positive responses to that. So we'd like to continue that and expand upon that a little bit too. New programs, we had $2,500 in there for last year. We put in $5,000 this year because we are working on developing some new things. One of the ideas that we had and we're researching right now is to put in archery instruction during the summer. which we had sent out a survey, or one of our members had done a survey of folks around town to see what kind of programs they'd like to have. That seemed to get very high marks. So we're looking into that now, and we don't know what the cost of that is, so we're kind of adding some of that in there, along with expansion of some of the other programs. We're also going to be looking at offering a game night during winter. That's going to be very low cost, but we're looking at putting that in. Let's see.
Where would you put that, Larry?
We're not really sure yet, Gary. We're either gonna try to hold it here downstairs. If that doesn't work out, we'll do like we did with the Halloween bash that we held, which was another program we did this year that became, I think we had, 70-some people there. A lot of adults, a lot of good community building, and that was held over at the church, at the fellowship hall there. So we have 2 locations that we can do that in. Let's see. We're also thinking about, and we'll come to the select board about that too, because of the music in the park, one of the problems that we're having, 2 problems that we're having in the pavilion. One is lighting, especially as the season gets later, it gets dark earlier. We'd like to explore the possibility of putting in LED lighting in there, so that the pavilion could be lit for that purpose. The other thing is too that we found is that the musicians are having to put their equipment and play on the dirt, which is creating a little bit of an issue. So we'd like to explore putting in a cement floor, which was part of the original plan for the pavilion. And we found that we might be able to do that for around $2,500. But we want to explore that, bring that to the select board and see.
This would just be a slab somewhere, I mean, you're not...
Yeah, we put the slab over the whole,
The whole pavilion?
oh yeah, the whole pavilion, yeah, like was originally
For
planned.
2,500?
That's kind of what we're hearing, but again, like I said, I want to get concrete numbers, unintended.
Not bad.
Yeah, okay. The other thing that we'd like to do is to, for a warrant article request of $10,000 to go into the trust fund, because we do have, part of our long-range plan is to refurbish the tennis court at some point, and that's going to be about $30,000 to $40,000 to do that. I know we've got some funds in there now, but we'd like to build that up to do in the future. One of the things that we did vote on doing was dropping the contribution to ORYA. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, their request this year was for $28,700. We're kind of looking at this whole issue with ORYA and kind of wondering, and a lot of taxpayers are wondering this too, as to why we're paying $28,000 or $27,000, almost $28,000 to an organization to manage their own scheduling and have exclusive use of fields that we build and basically maintain. We've been doing a little study of other towns around us, and I put together a small grid. It's not quite complete yet, but basically no other town pays an outside organization like we do with ORYA. As a matter of fact, you probably heard Durham is cutting their budget by $44,000 to ORYA this year. And speaking with Todd Selling down there, he's not quite sure the whole amount's going to go, but they are going to be cutting back significantly for that. Medbury's been talking about the same thing. The only other town around here that actually funds any outside 501c3 would be the town of Newmarket, and they give about $22,000 only to their traveling soccer program, but they manage everything else in-house. We're kind of thinking that, we could take $28,000 and hire somebody to do our own scheduling, and we could better control and maintain the facilities. I've had quite a bit of problem with ORYA and getting them to take care of their contractual obligation with regard to repair of the field. We've not been able to use the baseball field all summer because of crabgrass, because it was never taken care of to begin with, and it was never maintained during the summer on either field. I have been after Matt Gloat about that, and he finally got Hillside Landscaping to come in and take care of the field over at Little River Park, but it's not complete yet. and that was only after getting on his case about it, and the one over at Townfield hasn't been done yet. So we're a little disappointed in that. So that's our rationale in starting to cut back with that. We can better use some of those funds within our own program at this point. One issue or one comment that came up was, well, we need to pay them that amount so that the kids can have programs. And before anybody goes off like they had before and said that Kinberg hates kids, that's not the case. I'm looking at the dollars and cents, what we're getting for our dollars. And quite frankly, you know, if Lee did not participate in ORYA, the kids would still be able to participate. That organization, and I have a number of questions on their accounting too, their bottom line is that they're losing money every year anyway. I've taken a look at 3 years, but I'm just looking at some of the stuff here, which you guys ought to look at, is bookkeeping and accounting, $33,000. I mean, come on, it's only $1.5 million program, or 501c3. Where's the $33,000 going to, and I can't get an answer on that. Neither can Todd Selleck, and he's been after him too. So it raises a number of questions. Why do we want to continue to fund this? Kids from Nottingham can participate, and it only costs them $20 more to participate in the program, and they don't pay into ORYA. So why are we paying $28,000 a year and the kids aren't getting any break or anything like that? So it's just something to consider. We're requesting that we drop that to $20,000 this year, take that $8,700, reallocate it to other programs.
Would the rec commission be willing to set aside a portion of it for kids who can't afford it, to subsidize kids who want to play?
Well, none of the money that we pay to ORYA subsidizes kids.
I thought that's what it was for,
Mm-mm.
was to pay for
No.
the programs for kids who couldn't afford it,
Does not.
or to lower the cost of those, of their fees.
No, because like I say, the only advantage is that the programs, if the town does not contribute to ORYA, there's only 3 towns, Medbury,
Yeah.
Durham, and Lee, that it would only cost $20 more per child per program. There is no reduction in fees or anything, and there are other organizations that pay us that the kids could be involved with very similar programs that could be involved with, that would pay the town to use the fields.
Well, I'm just concerned that there might be kids who can't afford to do it, to have to pay that extra $20 or whatever to be able to participate in ORYA. And so I just think that it would be good for the town to have some funds set aside for that very purpose.
Well, that would have to be up to the town side,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
because there's nothing like that going on now.
I really thought they were
I think
adjusted.
ORYA does have some sort of program that helps kids that can't afford to be.
But that is not
But it's
directly
through
tied,
them. Yeah,
that
it's
is not
not-
directly tied to the monies that the town's
Right.
paying.
They have something, but yeah.
But other organizations have the same thing. They have scholarship programs and so on, and they have a way to help out kids that can't afford it. So it's, to me, that's kind of a moot point.
So if we, let me understand, there's X number of programs that the ORYA puts on, soccer and this and that. Who's gonna take over those programs?
Well, we have Maximum Velocity, which is a league organization, 1C3 league organization. They already pay us to use the fields. You have Seacoast United, and I'm sure there's some others that are available.
Can I just add
It's a
something?
totally different.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
Definitely Seacoast United, and I think Maximum Velocity, you have to try out for
Yeah,
those teams.
it's a different thing. It's not like a whole,
Mhm.
they
Or
offer
like-
a rec
right,
program and
right.
everything else that all these kids can play. It's not even close to being the same.
Well, it is declining in the number of kids participating in
Yeah.
that. You can see that by the numbers. You take a look at the financials, you'll see that there's a decline each year. But the other question is that there's a big increase in the fundraising. Where's the extra money going? As I understand it, that they're putting aside money to build their own fields or something like that. And is that on the backs of the town's contributions?
These are all questions that other towns are asking too.
Yeah, actually, ORYA brought it up when they were here, talking about the same thing. So I'm not saying I don't disagree that we sort of reduce as we go over the next few years. But I think these programs are very important for all of our kids in the town who want to participate. I was a big part of ORYA, you know, coaching and running the travel soccer program and running the rec hockey program when my daughter was going up through it all. There's a lot of kids that participate, whether the numbers are going down or not.
I don't disagree with you.
But it's,
Okay, I
so I don't
yeah.
think sending them somewhere else is the answer, so.
I don't
But they can go there.
Right, I don't disagree with you, but I think if you take a look at how, it's kind of upside down. The whole ORYA thing is kind of upside down, okay?
That's the problem.
They seem to have enough money to do a lot of things. Why can't they be self-sufficient like the other organizations? Why do they need the towns funding them to the tune of $100,000 a year?
And they did actually mention that they were working towards that.
They are, I
this
mean,
year.
I can't, both Seacoast United and Maximum Velocity charge more money. And they only do soccer, unless Seacoast United does something else now. I don't know.
Well, they might have like a baseball or whatever
Seacoast
program.
United?
Yeah, they started
Um,
some kind of baseball and
But I know that those two soccer
Lacrosse.
programs definitely charge more
Oh,
than
yeah.
ORYA.
So Larry, you were saying that
That was a
let's make believe you do cut those funds out in the long run.
Mhm.
You said who would be taking care of the fields in the sense of who would be playing on them, when they would play, managing the fields, I guess.
Okay. As far as the fields go, we take care of the fields now, with the exception of some fertilizing and some overseeding and repair when you can get them to do it, okay? And in talking to ORYA, that amount is between $3,000 and $4,000 a year that they put into our fields. We put in the rest. We mow them, we irrigate them, we build them, we do everything else.
But who would schedule it?
Well, the thing is, if we took the entire $28,000, we could hire a program director for the rec commission that could take over that whole thing and provide other services too. It doesn't have to be the whole 20, I mean, you know, again, it could be a part-time, it could be- I don't see full-time.
Yeah.
But again, we could take some of that money and then take care of our own scheduling, like all these other towns do. All the other towns take care of their own scheduling. They have a person that does that, they pay a person to do that. And then there's no conflict, there's no issue, there's no question over usage of fields and things like that.
So if ORYA still wanted to use them, they would come to them and
Sure.
say, this is
It's
when
not
we
that they
want to
can't use
schedule
it.
our, and then they schedule it. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it just, if you take a look at the equity of this thing, or the equality of it, I mean, we have other organizations that want to use our fields. We have some nice fields. We have some other organizations that want to use it. Now, they don't receive any outside funding, but yet they pay us for the use. We have ORYA that we pay $28,000 a year to, that has exclusive use and does their own scheduling. And we have trouble getting the other groups to come in. It's kind of upside down and backwards. And, you know, like I say, we're not the only ones looking at this.
No,
I mean, take a look. I mean, Durham recognized this last year when I was talking to Selig about it.
and ORYA knows too,
Yeah.
and they're actually, when he was here, he was talking about
Mhm.
working towards.
But I mean, we can't get them to provide the maintenance that they agreed to provide unless, you know, we really get on their case. I mean, just the baseball fields alone should have been maintained throughout the summer. We're the only one around with all this money invested in baseball fields that you can't play on. And you couldn't play on them.
Do you know of anybody that, that wanted to use the baseball field?
That's not the point. The point is, we couldn't use them anyway if we wanted to, because of the crabgrass on the dirt areas of the
So it
baseball.
wasn't used at all?
ORYA used it for their big.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And it's the big diamond, so that's what they
That's
needed.
one of the issues
Yeah.
apparently.
Mhm, mhm. And then I did speak with Gary at Hillside, because I was told that, you know, ORYA told me, well,
They schedule it, they're the gurus, they're the ones that tell us what to do and so on. I spoke to Gary about the condition of the fields and stuff, and he says, we've been telling ORYA for a while to stop using the general purpose field because of the rain and everything, it's getting ruined. And we were told that Hillside was scheduled to repair the dirt areas of the baseball fields. Hillside never got any kind of communication like that. So, you know, these are the issues that we're looking at. You know, if we have an agreement, stick to it. Otherwise, what's the point of having the agreement?
Larry, I noticed in the trust that you have about 32,000.
I'm not sure what it is right now.
Yeah. It shows about 32K. What's left to be done in your mind? Beyond the slab that you talked about and the lighting that you talked about?
Slab lighting, the tennis court.
Tennis court. I mean, a Little River Park.
At Little River Park, I think other than maybe some other plantings and things that we might want to do, I don't think, unless there's something major that comes up, that I think Little River Park is pretty well
Pretty much done.
set.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's good to know.
yeah. No, we've come a long way and
We certainly have.
we're in good shape there. We just have to maintain it, that's the only thing.
Absolutely.
So.
I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Everybody's all set? All right.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who's next? Buildings budget?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I handed out a couple of updated spreadsheets. These all tie into some changes that the transfer station made kind of last minute for their presentation to change a part-time employee to a full-time employee. So these reflect that. In addition to that, I got the guaranteed maximum rates from all of our insurance carriers, so from the Health Trust and Primex. So these spreadsheets recognize those updated numbers. They didn't really change very much, but I thought that since I got the numbers, I should update the spreadsheets. So unless anyone has any immediate questions, I'm just going to go through the budget kind of section by section. So there are no changes in the, what's called the BOS budget. All the numbers are the same as the current fiscal year. In financial administration, I'm only looking to up the training budget slightly. I think we're gonna have to start looking into some additional training for our municipal software program coming up in the next year or so. In the, what's also called financial administration, but it's actually the IT budget, you'll see an increase of $10,000 in the computer services line. Last year, there has been money budgeted to start digitizing town hall files. That didn't happen. So I'm putting some money back into the budget in the hopes that we can start that project.
Was there, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jim, was there a reason it didn't happen? We just didn't have,
Time,
just time?
bandwidth. Busy. We're also gonna have to work very closely with the Heritage Commission on that. And I think they decided maybe mid-year what they wanted to see relative to review of municipal records. So it was just a variety of reasons that just didn't come to pass. Software support services, there's an increase for two reasons. One, all of our various software programs, the yearly maintenance fees go up. So Avatar is a big one. Tyler Technologies is another big one. They tend to go up 3 to 5% every year. Also, for many, many years, we've had our website hosted and programmed through Virtual Town Hall, as do a lot of towns in New Hampshire. They were bought recently by Civic Plus. So as a result of having been purchased by Civic Plus, everybody has to upgrade the platform. So the cost to do a custom upgrade is $4,500. We could spread that out over 3 years if we want to, so that number could be reduced by $3,000 if we want to spread it out over 3 years. I don't know whether I have one feeling one way or the other. It's the same amount of money whether we pay it over 1 year or we pay it over 3 years, so. The alarm line's going up slightly just because there's just been an increase in the maintenance of the alarms. It costs us, I think it's $900 a year to have the alarms checked on the elevators every year when we do the elevator inspection.
You only have one elevator, right?
Yes.
You said 4 elevators.
Oh, did I? The next line where you'll see a change is in legal expense. I'm just looking to increase that by $3,000. That's just based on what our expenditures have been recently. The personnel budget is where you'll see the most changes. That's not uncommon as employees get added, salaries change. As I said, the health insurance went up by nearly 5%. Dental insurance went up by 2.3 or 2.6. Workers' compensation went up a little bit, not too much. And retirement went up because when wages go up, and then specifically with police and fire, they're looking to hire additional full-time people, and of course, that drives the retirement system costs. Government buildings, there are just some very slight changes that I'm looking for. I'm actually a little nervous about leaving the maintenance and repair budget where it is. As you might imagine, this building is, what, now 15 years old? And kind of more and more things are starting to fail. Fail's a strong word. Starting to need maintenance and repair. And so I think we're just going to see those costs increase over the years. Property liability insurance, we, as I said, got the guaranteed maximum rate. That was just a slight change. The other general government, that's the line that the selectmen use to budget for COLAs, merit increases. So I did a calculation based on the current population and estimating of 3%. That's what that 68.2 is. The health budget, which is the social service agencies, you heard all of their presentations, so those numbers simply reflect what their requests were. General assistance, I'm just looking for an additional $500 to the welfare officer wages. That individual, like most town employees last year through the selectmen, got a 2% COLA. But I'm not looking for any changes to the general assistance budget. We're in pretty good shape with that. And then, of course, the bond interest goes down as it does every year as we get closer and closer to retiring that debt. And then there's a fairly quick run through. There's not anything that's really, in my mind, terribly outstanding. Anybody have any questions? Sure.
We're all set?
No, I have questions.
Oh, you have a question?
I'm deferring to
Sorry.
you. You're
Oh.
leading the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Not,
Go ahead.
oh, Jesus.
Mr. Bugby, please.
Under financial administration, can you give us a list, not necessarily right now,
Mm-hmm.
of the software support contracts and their costs?
Yeah, I actually have some of that in front of me. For fiscal year 19, Tyler Technologies was $5,310.
Oh, could you send it?
Oh, you want to just, oh, okay.
I don't necessarily,
You just want me to send you a list?
yeah, just
Okay.
the list.
Yep.
Under personnel pay in lieu of vacation,
Mhm.
that's based on,
Everybody,
out there that's-
right, everybody who can, taking it,
yep,
yes.
okay. Health insurance buyout seems to be up, what's the,
That's a good thing.
that's a good thing.
Yes, the buyout being up means that we have 5 employees taking the buyout and not taking the health insurance buyout.
So the health insurance, is that why it's only down like $2,300? or-
Correct.
So it would have been up instead
Yes,
of,
so the more people that take the buyout,
Better off we all.
all right,
the less money we have to spend.
okay.
Now, okay, Pat knows what I'm gonna say next. All of this is budgeted based on the current people that we have, taking the current plans that we have with just a little bit of a cushion built into the health insurance budget. If someone
Changes.
changes, then
Yep,
that will change.
okay.
Bingo.
Where's my other one? Under patriotic purposes,
Mhm.
we keep putting $500 in there. Last fiscal year, there was $995 expended. Was that part of that to the fireworks? What was,
I think that's where we took the fireworks out of it.
so the ongoing $500 is for like the buntings
The
to be
buntings and the
placed?
flags.
But we don't need to do that every single year, so. When was the last time we did it? 'Cause
I
you
think
keep
we
putting-
bought buntings within the last year.
Okay. Because just in terms of the data, in terms of FY '17, we
Right.
budgeted 500, we
Right.
spent 64. I know it's not a big thing, but,
Yeah, I would say in fiscal 18 is when we bought the buntings, but I could ask Bill Stevens that.
okay. And my last question is under the welfare officer.
Mhm.
I know it's hard to find those people. You're actually giving her a 10% raise, and we're looking at a 3% this year, so,
Yeah, that wasn't my intent.
well.
I mean, I'm not giving her, let me restate, I'm not anticipating giving her a raise at all. I wanted to make sure we could cover the minimum number of hours that we guarantee, which is 5 hours a week, at the current rate of pay, plus a little cushion, if for some reason, in a week or 2 weeks, or a number of weeks spread out over the fiscal year, she had to work more than 5 hours a week.
Okay.
That's what that is. I guess I didn't explain it well the first time around.
Okay, so it's not an
It
increase,
is not
it's
an
just,
increase in her salary,
it's a little bit,
correct.
Cushion.
It's a little bit of cushion.
we don't like the word padding. so.
Yeah, we use cushion.
Potato,
Much better.
potato.
Sounds better. Should call it reserves.
Reserve. It's like when someone's getting fired, they call it a soft landing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, the other,
Sure,
and it's probably in here someplace,
Yeah.
but usually do the accrued benefits liability spreadsheet.
accrued benefits liability.
Yeah, accrued benefits.
Oh, not the pay in lieu, you mean when somebody leaves?
Yeah,
Yes.
well, you usually do a spreadsheet, and I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
sure, I quickly looked through, but I didn't
It's not
find it,
here?
but,
Hmm.
well,
It might be.
like I said,
Yep,
quickly
yep,
looked through.
Yep,
But in terms of what that total liability is,
yep,
is based on what we've got in the trust funds, there's 50 some odd thousand in there. I
yep.
think it's 50 some odd thousand. 56.
5677.
And I know one of our high liability persons left.
Right.
So what is our new liability? It was like 130 some thousand or something like
Yeah,
that.
you're right, I don't see that spreadsheet.
So if you could,
Yep,
if you have it,
yep.
can you send it to us so we can have a general idea? Because that's one of those funds that the CIP doesn't take into consideration, so we kind of have to take a look at it and see what we think should be in there.
Yep.
And the other one is reevaluation. We're almost, what is it, 46,000? And that's another one they don't cover, so your thoughts in terms of when we're doing it and how much it's gonna be and
Well, we've actually been able to do that pretty inexpensively the last 2 times. I don't know whether we want to count on that or not,
Okay.
but I can take a look at that.
Yeah, if you just send us in terms of,
Yep.
we're anticipating in 2 years it's gonna be 60,000 or
Right.
whatever it's supposed to be. And I'm just pulling that number out, I don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
If you can let us know, because those are 2 we're gonna have to take a look at ourselves, because the CIP doesn't cover those.
Yeah,
Julie, on the legal fees, how much of that approximate, just percentage-wise, is attributable to our ongoing VRC issues?
that you actually see in the planning and zoning budget.
It's all in planning and
That's
zoning?
all in planning and zoning. 99% of it is in planning and zoning. Yep.
And somewhere in the settlement, don't we get reimbursed for legal fees?
If it ever
If
gets
it ever
sold.
gets there. If it ever gets
Yes.
there.
Property.
So that's a moving, it's a moving
Because we got-
target, right? It goes up every month, just.
10,000, well, no, it doesn't go up every month. It's-
Well, it does as we incur more fees,
Well,
which is what's happening now.
yeah, I'm not sure how much of
Well,
those
there's
we're
a
gonna get.
cap to it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that the high bid on the property was $105,000.
Yeah.
So that's the most that we could be reimbursed for, I believe.
And we still have the $10,500 sitting someplace
Right,
as the.
the down payment.
Yeah, down payment. But we're still waiting for,
Has the court set a date to rule on that, Jen?
it's a civil thing now, isn't it?
No, it's still in the court system. We got a decision, but you have to wait out the appeal period.
So the court decided he
Court
can't.
decided, well, the court's decided many times.
And he appealed it.
And he appeals it many times.
Yeah.
As of right now, we can sell the property, but we have to wait out the appeal period,
Okay, because
How long was that?
the last we discussed.
30 days.
The last we discussed, I think, he was claiming it couldn't be sold because it reverted back to him. Correct. The court's decided on that issue, we're just waiting for that appeal period to expire.
Yes.
30 days. Okay.
Julie, on that line of personnel, it's 230.04, 4155-1, per retired saint, PD, OT to be
Oh,
reimbursed.
that was,
What is that?
something at one point, I think the police chief wanted some reimbursement for retirement costs when he did, might have been tied to grant work or something, but then the auditor said, yeah, no, you can't do that. So the only reason it's there is because if you took it out, you wouldn't be able to balance. See that
It's a 940, right?
$46 and the $940 because
Yeah,
there's dollar
drop
amounts
off.
there?
Yeah,
It'll eventually get dropped out,
okay.
yes, police department overtime,
Mhm.
something.
To be reimbursed.
Julie, rent assistance, how much of that 20 grand, is the 20 grand enough, or are we spending it, or?
It's been enough thus far. I mean, certainly we don't have the volume of clients that larger municipalities do, or the amount that they might have up north, but we still do pay rent for,
Because it was at 12, and then we put it up to 20, and we only spent 10. and-
yeah, because at the time we were doing the budget, there were, for us, a lot of people coming to us and getting rental assistance, and I was worried that that trend was going to continue,
Yeah,
but it's so far stabilized.
so is the 20 too high?
No.
No, okay.
I can tell you that the activity right now for people in need is just unbelievable.
Yeah. And then there was a story just today about the homeless shelter, Stratford County Homeless Shelter, changing their criteria. And some of the local municipalities are saying that it makes it too hard for people to get in.
To get in.
Then they have to pay for them to stay in hotels, and that obviously
Yeah.
makes the cost go up. So, I mean, it's a hard number to budget for
Oh, I
because
know.
we're obligated to do it.
So that's pretty quick.
You know, the rents that we pay in Lee
This is for
are,
winter.
say, about $800 a
Just for
month
winter.
when they're paid through this
So we
program.
never turn anybody away, even if we used up all the funds in that budget.
There's no such thing.
You cannot turn people
Right,
away.
you can't turn people
Well, we
away.
hopefully fuel assistance.
You dig into your budget somehow.
Yeah, just,
Can you, I'm trying to tie out this 376, 660 number under health insurance
Mhm.
to the sheet there that she gave us. That totals 398, so in
That
this,
includes the dental, and the dental is a separate budget line.
but under total town annual, it's 398.
Right.
So can you walk me through what is actually included in the 376? And where does that tie out to this spreadsheet?
So you're
Maybe I'm
looking
missing
at,
something?
you're looking at this spreadsheet,
I'm looking at the one.
and then you're looking at the budget spreadsheet.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so can you tie those two together for me, please?
Okay. So, oh, I thought I had it on here. I don't. I believe that if you take the 398,565
Yep,
and subtract the 21,905
yep,
for the dental, that gives you that number,
oh, the
370.
town, okay,
the 376. So the health insurance line, I don't really know why we break it out this way, but we do.
mhm,
The health insurance line includes the health insurance,
mhm,
the life insurance, the short-term and long-term disability.
okay,
Dental has its own line, the FSA has its own line.
okay. So in terms of that 376, you're including the new fire person that's proposed, the new police person that's proposed, and the new transfer station that's
Correct.
proposed. And do you have a placeholder family plan in there
Yes,
someplace?
yes.
Beyond that.
Where is that?
Oh, yours is blacked out.
Is it like, because it's gonna be a 24 something, right?
It is,
Someplace.
yes. It is. It's a family, these are two, what the heck is it? Well, I see it on mine. It's on the one that's not blacked out. I wonder if I sorted these together. Family, 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 family.
Well, does your total out to the same thing as this one?
Yes,
Okay, so it's in there
it's
someplace.
in there somewhere, yep.
Okay, so one of these, so there is
It's
a,
one, two, okay, you see the word single that's not in capitals?
Yeah.
And then the family plan that's above that, you skip over a capital single and
Oh,
then
yeah.
family, it's there.
but it doesn't total off to the side though.
It, no, for some reason, I don't know why I did that, there's no life
So-
insurance or the other ones.
Yeah, so that's,
Mm.
I'm asking, if it's not over there, it's not being totaled down to the bottom,
It is
so-
in the totals though, because of the way I total the, total
It just
the
doesn't
columns.
show up for some reason.
So it's this one. But you're not totaling the columns, you're totaling across, is that what you're
Well, I
doing?
do total the columns, so it's in the, see the number, the 364,
Yep,
458, and the
Yep.
21905, it's
Yep.
in there.
okay. But you're totaling across to get to the 398, you're not totaling the column down under total down, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. All right. So if the board chose not to include one of those proposed positions,
Mm-hmm.
the total would be on that total town annual, in terms of how much it would be reduced by.
Yes.
Okay.
And, yeah, except, those are separate down here,
Okay.
so.
So I guess the other part of that is, to because those new positions would be having retirement expenses too, so we'd have to ask you if we were considering not doing one of those, how much that total impact would be.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and that you might get the hint at on, we're calling it the yellow spreadsheet, only because certain lines have been
Okay.
highlighted in yellow.
So we just have to total across for the fire department.
Yeah.
I don't see one in the transfer station.
It's Jeff, on the sheet that's highlighted,
Oh,
it's Jeff Geddes, because that's who he wants to move into.
okay. So if this spreadsheet is really proposed, this is not what they're earning now?
It's what everybody is earning now, with the exception of the ones that are highlighted.
So those are changes,
Yes.
okay?
Changes that department heads put forward, if that makes any sense. In other words, this does not account for the 3% COLA.
So where's the additional officer in the police department?
Justin Doty,
Oh, that's the guy that's at like,
he's a part-time,
okay.
yes, currently in part-time.
Initially wanted to go full-time.
Hmm?
He's asking for,
Yes,
to go
He the-
full-time.
he the
chief?
police chief,
Yes.
yes. Yep.
And he's moving the corporal to detective.
Well, that's a complicated story that I wish the police chief was here to explain.
But that, I mean, that's basically it.
The way I had it explained to me is detective is a job position that has a higher rate of pay, but more than one person will be slotted in to be a detective depending on who's doing what. But for the purpose of budgeting, this is what they wanted to do. I know,
So some are a mix then. Some people get a mix. Sometimes they're paid as a
Right,
detective,
sometimes they're paid as a
and
detective.
sometimes they're paid as a
sometimes-
patrolman or whatever.
Right,
Okay.
right, thank you, yes, whether the dollars all end up
Yeah.
working.
So he may or may not work X amount of hours as a detective.
Correct,
Right.
Yeah.
correct.
And, yeah, okay, I got it.
Maybe he'll work as a patrol.
Yeah.
But when he works as a detective, he'll get the higher
Right. All right.
pay.
So then there's also a brand new police officer?
Yes, Justin Doty, they want to move from a part-time to a full-time.
Well,
He's already there.
He's already
there.
Not,
Part-time.
Is not a new person.
not according to this spreadsheet.
Which spreadsheet?
I'm looking at the police department, like this
It's in the
one,
book.
Yeah,
Oh,
and he's got 10 full-time people in fiscal year 20, but he has 9. He has 8 full-time and 1 part-time, so there's another person there somewhere. Right?
he said he was gonna do that next year.
yeah. that's
Okay,
what
so
I
that's
thought-
not-
what I
That's
said.
next year. Yeah.
Okay, so this is not right.
There's only 9
So
on the
there's
sheet.
9,
Right.
right.
That must be.
He
what-
has 8
That's what he said he
now,
wanted to.
he
Yeah.
wants to go to 9.
Okay, so this thing's
Right.
He
wrong.
wants to go to 11,
Yes.
actually,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah,
Well, this year he wanted to make the part-time a full-time.
Right.
Yes.
And next year, he said, I'll ask for another one.
Okay, so it's this one that's not.
Actually, that part-time person is probably a liability to him. And the fact that, first of all, he is retired from the Manchester Police Department.
oh, no, he's
This is
gone.
different.
Very,
He's not,
He's gone.
he's
He's
not
gone.
working for us anymore.
No,
okay,
He's done.
Justin's a new, younger guy.
okay, well, Barry's gone,
Yeah,
because that was a liability,
yeah,
really.
he's gone.
Yeah, they come and go. They come and go.
But the position, being a full-time certified person already retired, being hired on part-time is good for the training. But if he goes over 32 hours a week, and now it's even been tightened up more, and there's X number of hours a year that they keep track of, the penalty to the town for letting that happen is extreme. So if he's in the middle of an automobile accident and his 8 hours is up, he's gotta go.
Well, they did change, though, that they're doing it on a yearly basis.
Yes, but they reduced the number of hours if you do it on a yearly
Unless
basis.
you were grandfathered.
So it reduced the number of hours. It was a catch-22 in that. If you stayed with the so many hours a week,
Right.
you didn't have to do the reduced hours, but if you did the reduced hours, you could get by on that. If you went 8.5 hours instead of 8, you just had to not work on one day later on.
But that's taken care of.
All right, are you done? Is that your questions?
I was done.
So,
You're done.
you were done?
But it was that position that he wants to make full-time, right?
Correct.
Just that dollar and cent position,
Yes,
rather than hire another part-timer.
correct.
Julie, you mentioned the repairs and maintenance, and you mentioned this building. That is the category for all the buildings, right?
It's the category for the buildings at the town center, this building, and the annex. It's not the transfer station buildings or the highway department.
Okay, but it is all the rest of them.
All the rest.
Okay. Does anybody like help you keep track of what needs to be fixed? So
It's pretty ad hoc.
that's kind of what I thought.
When something breaks, we fix it.
We don't have a,
You call it better.
like a schedule.
Well, we have scheduled maintenance for the heating systems and the air conditioning systems.
Okay.
That, there's a fall and spring inspection and maintenance
Okay.
program.
I was just thinking about the story you told when we were trying to figure out what to do with the cemetery records the other night, and they wanted to know where to put the
File cabinet.
file cabinet. There was a question about the stability of the floor, and
Well, that really is part of the town center project.
well, I know, but I get concerned about things that we had deferred in the way of maintenance
Yeah,
over the years that this has been on the back burner,
yeah.
so. But thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any questions? I think we're like ready to schedule.
Yeah, we are.
Yes, although I see some members of the CIP presentation
But not the-
up there.
Gentleman that was gonna come at 8. Oh, no.
It says 8 o'clock.
No,
I know.
I believe Mr. Smith was gonna come at 7.
It's coming at 7.
Close to 7 as he can make it.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
I hesitate to say this, but I'm gonna say, I just wish that Mr. Kinberg had come here the night when ORYA
It might have
was
helped.
here, because then ORYA could have given, if there is a side, their side
Yeah.
or explanation or whatever there might be. And,
He did talk about it a little bit,
yeah,
ORWA, when
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
here, he talked about the crabgrass and that it was an
Yeah.
issue and that he was trying to address
Yeah.
it, but you
Yep.
do get a different picture from
yes, you do.
the other side.
I know, because I saw emails back and forth, Mr. Glow did get in touch with Hillside about the crabgrass, so I'm not sure why there's a discrepancy in the story about the crabgrass in the baseball field. But again, remember my question to Matt Glow was, well, why don't more people use the baseball field? And the reason is, it's too big for Little League.
Yeah.
So we'd either have to have more people playing Babe Ruth or get adult baseball to use the field. And the board might remember a couple years ago, we did have adult baseball leagues. And we had a serious problem with one of them, and so they were banned from using the field. So
That was the drinking one, right?
the drinking one and the garbage.
Keg
and-
on each base or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Garbage all over the board.
So, I mean, I could see that if you're a men's baseball league and for you, that's part
That's
of.
what they do.
That's part of it,
Or
well,
softball league or
great,
whatever.
well, then you can't use the field at Little River Park,
Right.
so.
Well, there's a gentleman, and I don't remember who it was. We thought it was Cali Oris, but maybe it's not. They wanted to do old-time baseball.
Oh, yep,
They dress up
that's a
in,
thing.
they dress up in the old-time uniforms,
Yeah.
like the old-time way, which, that maybe they could use that, so I don't know.
With the flat sticks or whatever, I don't know.
You're really going back there.
Julie, am I remembering that before ORYA did the scheduling, you did it?
Mm,
I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't think so.
No, because
Or way.
we didn't
Or way.
have the multipurpose field.
That's what, exactly. that's-
But as soon as we got the multipurpose field online, actually, prior to the multipurpose field being built, the baseball field was scheduled by the rec department commission.
Okay.
We built the multipurpose field, and ORYA obviously wanted to use it, and I gotta be honest, I went to the board and said, I don't wanna have to
That's, I
schedule that
remember that.
field. Because there was this interim period when we were doing it, and it was a nightmare.
That's what I remember.
And it was a nightmare. And so we said, we don't want to do this. ORYA is willing to do it, let's just have them do it.
And one of the things we should probably have is Matt Goode come back
Right,
to talk to us.
Yep.
Because as far as talking with the people in Madbury is not interested in stopping,
right,
so that's slightly contradictory.
Right.
Also Durham, they're removing the 44,000 that they give to Oyster River, but they're still providing office space and other support,
right,
which is about 15,000 of that.
right.
So Durham is not completely out of it, but the other thing you have to remember politically what Durham's trying to do, Durham's trying to increase their rec department.
Right,
So rec department or way, we kind of want to do the same thing that they're doing, so let's force them out.
Right.
So we just have to be aware of that as well.
right.
And I'm not sure what Oyster River is going to, Oyster River Youth Association is going to do. Speaking of Ben Jeans, they're not at the point of saying we don't need town support. That's something they're looking at. But I would hate for us to cut them off cold turkey. But another thing, the question of Oyster River Youth is, what are you going to do? Let's say the town of Lee says, no, we're not going to give you any more money. What are you going to do to the fees? Because somebody's going to have to pay for those costs. It's not like the costs are going away.
Well, they charge each,
Yeah, I know, but then they'll charge
But
each of
it'll
those
be
parents
more.
extra
Exactly.
money.
That's my understanding that, say, for example, if Durham ends up not funding them, then it will cost the Durham families more money.
X amount of more.
I actually
dollars
don't
to do.
know whether their numbers, participation numbers are going down each year. Matt Globe talked about why soccer numbers are down, because Seacoast United and Maximum Velocity
Right.
are
Took
siphoning
some
all
of
the
them.
players.
Yep.
I don't know what the participation is like in the other 19 programs that they provide. I mean,
But
that's the thing,
Those
it's not,
programs are completely different. They're not
I know.
rec
That is-
programs,
They're
they're not
rec
geared
programs.
towards any kid who wants to play.
Right,
They're tryout programs that not all the kids in our town can do. So then you're gonna leave our kids with nothing, because they won't be able to
right.
participate in those
Well,
programs.
the rec commission has asked for a person to do, they've asked for a staff position to do something several
Yeah.
other budget years. So when he said that, well, we didn't pay ORYA, we can have a rec director, he's wanted that position.
He's trying to get that for a while.
I meant to ask him when he was here, I was confused that his statement that the only thing we're giving Oyster River Youth money for is to schedule our fields. That's not what it is.
No.
The money goes towards the 20 programs that
Right.
they provide.
Lowering the cost for
Yeah,
the kids.
right.
Yeah, for the kids,
Right.
actually, yeah,
The-
which is
the
exactly
fact
what
that
you were
they-
saying.
The
It
fact
was-
that they
it's
schedule
true, yeah.
our fields is because
We asked them to.
we asked them to.
But we were giving them money before that.
Yes,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So what do we give them money to do?
It just goes into their budget, it's not, they don't segregate it out.
Right.
Well, they do, it goes towards administrative costs.
Yeah.
That's what it goes towards.
The problem I see is that Durham pulls up, which it looks like they're on a path to try to do,
Right,
then probably there won't be the numbers in Lee and Madbury to support the operation.
yeah, I don't know.
And
The numbers,
I-
you talking about kids?
yes,
Well, the Durham kids can still
Durham's not
go.
gonna be pulling their kids out of the program, they're
Well,
just
they-
pulling the money that's supporting the.
But if they form their own rec commission,
Well, they
and
have
their
a
own
rec
rec.
department.
They do have a rec department.
But they're not gonna organize a whole nother soccer league and a whole nother hockey league and baseball and everything else. They're not gonna redo that whole
They
thing.
do little things.
They're still
like
gonna have the
paddling
programs.
days,
Yeah, but
hikes and stuff.
if you
Right.
look at the funding request that ORYA submitted, at the bottom of the front page and on the back, they list all of the programs that they provide.
Yeah,
We couldn't do that.
right.
No,
And we couldn't do it just for Lee kids because there would never be enough kids to
Exactly.
do all
By
of
the point,
this.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
you know,
So when Durham talks about pulling out, they're not pulling out of the kids out of the programs. They're reducing the money or pulling the money that they're giving. And Matt talked about that when he was here, talking about ORYA going, reducing the amount of
Right.
money that he's gonna get from all the towns.
right.
And eventually going to being self.
But it remains to be
sufficient.
seen what the public will do now that that information is public. I think that Mr. Selick has already heard from a number of citizens who want the funding to continue, so. We'll have to just see where they end up with that.
I wasn't at the meeting when ORYA was here. Did they talk about the fact that they have been trying to set money aside to build something? It was something that Larry had said. And I thought we had had this discussion with them before, that maybe they wanted to ultimately build a building or
I guess I
do
wasn't
something.
aware that they were looking to build more fields.
Where?
I don't know if it was
He didn't
fields, it was
say that.
something, they were setting
I don't
aside money
remember
to
that.
do something with. And I wondered if he had mentioned that, because their financial statements are never perfect. They're down there.
Well, no, but, I mean, I think they have, what, a volunteer
Yeah.
treasurer?
Well,
Yeah, Ben.
Larry said,
No, it's not Ben, it's
Ben
somebody
Jeans.
else.
Larry said that they
Oh, he's
paid
the president.
$33,000
He
to
was the
Loki,
treasurer.
supposedly.
Yeah,
Oh, do they?
to an accountant or something.
Yeah. Hello.
Man of the hour is here.
Da-da-da-da.
I haven't handed off yet, no. Where did they get that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, expenses, here we go.
Karen, you have a dog and pony show? Or you have a dog and pony show?
Mr. Smith is on it.
I don't know, I'm looking at their budget, I don't know where he got that number from.
I don't think we can just take exactly what Larry's saying.
That was my impression.
Again, it's only a
Hold on,
proposal.
Al.
Right.
No, that's okay. We have no real reason.
What about?
We have no real reason to do it.
It is an incredible year for so many kids. It's just, there's no way we can stop that. All right, are we, CIP discussion?
Catch your breath, Bob. Catch your breath.
Yeah, we got time. We got time.
You take your time.
Up here. Take the mouse with you. Not that I'm telling you what to do, but.
Just tell us what I'm
Save
gonna
your
tell you what to
trip.
do.
Back, at this point, I need everything I can get.
Yeah.
Did everybody get a copy of this?
No.
That's the presentation.
Alice was there too.
I know.
Yeah, but Alice was.
I didn't make, I just made a few copies of the presentation because he's gonna,
Okay.
so you can fight over them.
Go
Share.
there and
We can share
look on
one.
together.
And then he's gonna play it on the screen too. Do you want me to hit?
Karen, can you send this to us? Karen, can you send this to us? Hard copy?
Absolutely.
I apologize for not being able to make. I had a conference call with 15 people in China.
Oh, jeez.
In China. Oh,
Is Lamprey
jeez.
supposed to be downstairs? Where's Lamprey Watershed?
Probably, since we're up here.
Yeah, I think downstairs in the meeting room next to the VFW.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
It's probably split. No, that's okay.
It's Tuesday, it's a busy night.
Like everybody's.
You need to
What
shut the
night's
light
not
off.
busy
so
here?
you can
Fridays.
Okay.
Let's keep it that way, shall we?
Yeah.
You're gonna keep us to that.
No, that looks good.
That
Oh,
one?
I like that. That's
That was
good.
good. Karen, did you bring popcorn? You did.
And drinks,
Oh, did too. Wow.
and cotton candy.
Wow.
Give her whatever she wants.
The violator thinks they needed to bring french fries or something.
I'll
So
try it
in
later.
case anybody has not talked to China recently, it's 8 o'clock in the morning over there.
Oh, geez.
Or 7 o'clock in the morning. And I had all these people talking to me, and then they decided, we gotta go to work. Of course, they're home, right? Except 3 guys. And they sat and asked all kinds of questions. So it's like, God, I gotta get out of here. So I apologize, but we're here. Let me see, I gotta get that.
You brought the slideshow up there. There we go.
Okay,
Yeah.
first of all, I need to make sure everybody knows that I have 4 people on the committee. Karen, of course, is our chief. Wayne Lehman is back here, and Howie Hoff unfortunately teaches school tonight, so he was not able to be here. So anyway, so I'm gonna run through the first ones pretty quick. Guidelines are the same, we didn't change anything there. You know, the usual capital definition. Everything has to be in today's dollars and plan on the new vehicles, which you guys all feel comfortable with, I guess. Highway equipment. So, as you are, I think, fully aware of that, Randy has officially gone, and we have a new guy there, Steve Bullock, who showed up to our kickoff meeting on the second day. So he's like, you know, it's like talking to the, you know, the monkey in the zoo, right? I mean, he's kind of looking at you like, and actually, he was very informed. I mean, I was really surprised, but anyway, we lucked out because highway equipment had nothing for this year. So he took a position, which I support. Let's not make any change. Just let's leave it alone. Let me take this year to try to catch up. So essentially, there is no plan to the highway equipment as we have been planning all along. And it kind of,
But we did make a capital acquisition in the spreader for the highway department this past month.
Correct.
Yes.
remember, I've already forgotten what.
No, I just wanted to-
You know, I'm looking forward to next
I
year,
just
and that's
wanted
what
to
this
let
is, right? I only put in there, you know, so you have something to compare to in this first year, that's really okay. So, I'm gonna give you the whole thing here so that you can see it basically, but we're on course to getting new trucks as you all required. There is one exception, and that is that last one, the first time around, he's gotta go to a used truck because at any given time, he should have only 4 new trucks, but he keeps the one that he would be trading in as a spare that he kinda hides in the back barn, I guess, I don't know. But anyway, so he has, in case one of them goes down, he has the ability to still plow snow, so. So the first cycle through, he will get a used one in that particular case, but for the next several, he's gonna be getting new trucks, so. There it is, sorry. Now, and bridges, again, we've lucked out there. There was nothing for this year. However, he did make one change, and I didn't ask him, but it sounded like it had come from Randy, that there was, in 25, I believe it was, there was money to rehab a half a mile of road, and he has asked to move it up to 22, 23, which really doesn't affect, as long as he has the money in the budget, it really doesn't affect it, it's just repositioning it in the plan. No dollars added, but it's there. So what you'll see is if you move here, you'll see that right down in here where it says rehab half a mile road, it's been brought up into 22. But other than that, everything else is exactly the same. Code enforcement, there's no change there. We still are holding this replacement car in here. Our theory is it isn't hurting anything because we're not taking any money out of a trust fund. If the time came that we actually did need it, it would be just, you know, a vote, a direct vote to supply that money. It appears that the police car is working well, so if it is, and we get there and we don't need it, we probably will end it and wrap it out. But I just want you to know that it's there. We don't have any plans to do anything with it other than having it available in case we need it as time gets there. Okay, fire equipment. The plan is basically unchanged with a few exceptions. The very first one is that they have found out that the cost of the engine has gone up significantly. The way in which they have done that is the Seacoast Fire Chiefs Association keeps track of all equipment that's being purchased within their organization. And then in addition to that, I guess Durham just recently bought a new engine. So based on those kinds of things, Chief has requested to raise the cost from $550 to $575. And that is coming along in a couple of years, so we really felt the need to get that in there quickly. However, with that dollars going up, one would say, well, that means we probably have to put more in. And if you jump to the last one, we are reducing their deposits by $5K this year. And I want to step back and kind of remind you about that, and that is that when we actually finally got a plan in place for the fire department and equipment, they were terribly underfunded in their trust fund. So we ramped that up very high and started loading it in the very first couple of years. And with a plan always to drop it back as we started catching up. And we were, as an organization, forced to look at where can we start to drop it. And so we have chosen that one of the places is the fire equipment, and so we are requested. And I'm going to come back to that aspect later. But in addition to the increase in the engine, the chief has gotten a grant this year for thermal imaging cameras, and he's gotten one camera, and which is goodness. I mean, we don't spend that money. And what he's done to offset it is he's set them in in second and third one will be next year and the following year. Now, we also, when we went through that exercise, we realized that we did not have the money to replace those in the plan. And being a technology aspect, they tend to go a short life. And so we have put it in replacements for those in 10 years. Now, at that time, we will be replacing them all at one time. But in any event, it's similar to the radios. You know, they just last only so long, So here's the fire equipment. Again, like I said, nothing has really changed. The radios we had to, or I mean, I'm sorry, the cameras we kind of played around a little bit with. But that's the only thing. The cisterns and fire ponds, we reduced that by $5K also. They're on schedule for, I think it's in 8 years or 9 years to be having everything that they had in the plan. At that point, we would probably start looking at fire ponds basically in upgrades, because it appears that the cisterns will not need any upgrades. There are a few early ones that have small headers, so they will probably replace those in time, but basically, that's a well-funded thing, and there's not going to be an awful lot coming out in the next couple of years. I do want to just stop now and take just a side trip and make sure at least the select board understands that the plan currently calls for a cistern for the top of Wednesday Hill Road to be in the trees right across the road, which is the property that you're purchasing from the church. I don't think that's a problem, but I think that they gotta get ahead of make sure that they're working with whoever they gotta work with, the committee, the town committee, the architect, whoever, and so he can say, put it here as opposed to here, right? You know what I'm saying? Just get the thing located and then you'll be all right. But I'd hate to lose that, because it really feeds an awful lot of the town properties and the church and the school, so.
We had that conversation today.
Did you? Okay, great. I told them to do that, but, you know.
We have a meeting set up with DOT to figure out where our access to Mass Road is, and after that, we'll figure out in terms of where the buildings go. And I spoke to the chief via email today, and I said, when we have a plan, would you mind reviewing it? He said, definitely. We'll look at life safety, but also in terms of where cisterns go, where parking is, in terms of accessing the buildings for fire trucks, what do we actually need in terms of, you know, he likes to get around the buildings. I don't know what we can do about that, but he said that he'd look at the plans and give us his suggestions. He also sent us pictures of the cistern at Westmont Douglas up at the traffic circle to give us an idea.
Great.
So, but, in terms of the one that's scheduled for 2023, is there a possibility to switch that one with the Lehook one so that it could be done earlier?
It's kind of funny you should say that, because that's what he was talking to me about. But I don't, you know, I only tell them what we can't do. You know, they want to do something, they're the ones that, the managers or the department heads have got to, you know, state what they need, and we'll figure it out. But it sounds to me like it could be. You know,
I know he's been trying to get one in the center of town on the hill for a while, and this would be a good place to stick it.
Yep.
But I'm not sure in terms of what his requirements in terms of, has to be easy to get to, because if he has a fire someplace else besides the town center, it has to be easy to get in there, get the pumpers attached to it, pump out the water and go to wherever he needs to take it, so it has to be an easy access. So
Well, now, the plan, the cistern plan I'm talking about now, still calls for one at the fire station.
Oh, okay. Is that,
It's, I don't remember what one it is, but
okay.
that was,
Karen, do you know which one it is? There's only 4 here.
we could get you the answer for that. I mean, it's not a
Well,
big
just-
deal. I can go sit down with Scott and just say, you know, which one is it and when are you gonna do it, and we'll take care of that. But my point in bringing it up was the fact that my firematics goes so far back that we had pedal kind of trucks in those days, you know.
Like Fred Flintstone, yabba dabba doo?
Yeah, right. And so, you know, the point is that I had never operated out of cistern, so I really can't be sure, but I would assume that they would fill from here if they were
Oh, okay.
gonna do it, and therefore that would become less of a problem.
Okay.
You know, I'm speaking for Scott, and I shouldn't, so.
Okay.
So anyway, this is the plan, and there's nothing changed on that other than we are not putting $5,000 in. As you can see right here, we dropped it 5,000. And there we go. And before you start spending that money that I'm pulling out.
Bingo.
In all fairness, as you're probably aware of, and I guess I gotta mention names here, and I don't like to do that, but Roger resisted doing a lot of individual planning there. I don't know whether he didn't understand it or whatever, but the bottom line is we really wanted for a good plan from the transfer station. And I will tell you, I think Toby must have come in with his guns blazing, because he has done an excellent job, and he's just gone from the beginning to the end of the whole operation there, and has really increased the plan significantly. And in order to cover it, we're taking that money out of what we did for the fire equipment and the fire cisterns and putting it into here. And so we're upping this one, plus adding the money that we can salvage from that. The plan, first thing is that apparently, and I don't know the details, but they have had some problems there in the site. I don't know whether it was theft or whether people were putting stuff in the wrong bins, or, you know, I really don't know what it was. But what he's doing is he's putting, I believe, 4 cameras in there from a security standpoint. And in addition to that, he's adding 2 storage units. Now, the storage units are nothing more or less than, you know, like a pod, you know, like if you move, I mean, it's one of those that they plunk out back, and actually 2 of them, and they use those for storage. The biggest thing is they're apparently in a situation where, and I had talked to Roger about this for several years, but he never would put it in the plan. But there's a situation where the equipment going over the road to the landfill is apparently somewhat our responsibility, even though it's not necessarily our equipment. But so he's got a pair of road scale, or a set of road scales in there, in which, you know, a truck drives right up on it, so you know what it weighs before it goes out on the road, and if there's any problem, you can make sure that you didn't overload it or whatever. So, and then there's 2 small scales, which are, that's the 80,000 is outgoing, and the 10,000 is incoming. So he's gonna weigh, you know, when you take a bunch of 2x4s down there and throw them away, you're gonna get weighed. And I don't know whether it's per pound they're gonna charge you, or whether it's just a limit or something to that effect, but they have to weigh it in order to know.
Well, we also,
They already do that, so I don't know if that's,
well, I don't know if we're accurately weighing trucks today, empty,
Not the
and
trucks.
after we load them. And that's really where the road scales come in, because if they come in at 10 ton and we put 5 tons on board, we want to get paid for 5
Yeah,
tons.
I didn't go through the whole process, but you're right. You're absolutely right. The point is that they don't want to have the truck going out of the yard overloaded.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the bottom line.
Can I have one question? Just so I can understand the math. It says as a result, we added 18,000 for a total of 38.
Right.
But that's 30, that's 110, that's 120,000 in the first 4 bullets. So I just,
No, don't add them up. They're different.
Because they're spread out over years.
That's deposits. The other is expenses.
okay.
As far as the small scales are concerned, I do not know if they're replacements or whether they're additional.
so I know they
if
have
you
one,
need,
because
if you
when
want
we
to know
drop
that,
off, yeah, they weigh the demolition, construction, all that stuff, they weigh right now, and then they charge you per pound. So maybe he wants another one,
I think it's
or maybe he
replacing-
needs to
There's two
replace
there.
it,
It's a replacement of the existing.
is it?
They are?
Okay,
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know that.
okay.
Okay. So, if I can get it there. So, as you can see, what used to be a half a page is now a whole page. The interesting thing is, I feel he did not, outside of maybe that road scale, which is kind of, he implies kind of a mandated kind of thing, and I don't know where from, but he didn't seem to overload, you know, they're small items, and he allowed us to distribute them out so that we stretched it out across several years. He did have some priorities, but it didn't make any difference. So that's the transfer station. Whoops, what did I do, go backwards?
Well, just to
Yep,
clarify,
yep,
do we have
sure.
road scales now?
Pardon
Do
me?
we have a set of road scales now?
No, you do not.
We do not. But you can wait until 21 for those?
Yeah, apparently what it is that the law doesn't take effect until sometime, and I don't really know the details on it, but it's being driven by the,
The DOT, overloading trucks.
I don't know that it's DOT as much as it is the responsibilities of moving things to the
Oh, to the
landfill.
the landfills.
You know, at this point, there was a law that apparently went into effect that said you were gonna be partly responsible, or you can be partly responsible.
For what you're putting in the landfill. I
So,
guess it probably would double check what if we're paying per pound, then we can check how much it's costing us too. Before it
Well,
leaves,
exactly.
right? You know,
Yeah, works both ways.
yeah.
Bob, from days of old, there's 2 ways to weigh trucks. There's portable scales and there's permanent in-ground scales. Which is he talking?
he's talking in ground.
I was gonna say, because if he's talking portables, that's way too much money.
No, it's,
So he's gonna have to.
and the reason why I know that is because I asked him if that included the cost of the scale and the installation, which it does.
What's he gonna put over it to cover it?
I don't know his process, to be honest with you.
It's just the scale.
But you know, I've been across a lot of road scales that are not covered. So I don't know, but what,
Bob, can I ask you a question? What did you say about the loader? you get the loader in for 52,000 in 2024. That's not a new loader, it must be a used one.
We
He
usually
does,
do
he gets
highway
it from Randy.
Well, Randy isn't replacing his until 2025 though. So
Oh,
you can't,
oh,
We just make the adjustment.
so can you tweak
we'll move it.
whatever? But that's the assumption,
Yep,
Yes.
that when Randy, excuse me, not Randy,
highway department.
Steve gets a new loader, you'll take that one and give it to the highway department, transportation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Recycle center. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that has happened already a couple times. I guess.
Yeah.
In the case of the library, the only thing that they have in there, and it is, this next year, is, they're replacing shelving now. The only caution that I had to Ruth on this particular thing is I said, depending on what happens, that money may not get spent, but having it there is probably right, So I left it there, or we left it there, I should say, and just cautioned her that is what happens. And of course, her immediate question was, well, what happens to my trust fund? I said, well, we take that out of it, of course. No, I told her we keep it.
Bob, just be aware, in this particular fund, at 125, 60,000 of that is for the new construction. It was put in there initially because there was no other place to put it. So that 125 is not really for that
It's
particular
not the
purpose.
same 125.
It's not the what?
That's not the same 125.
In terms of the amount that's,
You're talking about the trust fund?
yeah, well, it says,
See, that's not for the building.
yeah, it is. 60,000 of it.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, I'll disagree with you because the 60,000 that went in there probably 7, 8 years ago.
Let me tell you what, that doggone thing has been extremely high,
Yep,
up in the hundreds,
yep,
since we had the CIP,
but
which 10 years.
that's what's in there. That's what the plan is. We're taking that money, 60,000 of it out.
Well, you know better than I do, but
At least it's there if we need it.
Yeah, so just be aware that,
well, the difference is whether you're gonna be able to use it or not, that's all. Or you're gonna have to get the words changed, if you can.
not according to the trustees.
Okay.
The 60,000 can come out because that's the language that put it in there. So they're comfortable with that. But just be aware that if the town center thing goes forward, just, more of an FYI.
Every year, we update
Every day it gets
that amount, every year. And if it goes down, it goes down. I truly, I mean, every year we upgrade it. So, whatever it is what we use? We use the MS9 that goes to the state. Whatever that says is what we put in there for that year, and then, of course, it blows it out automatically for the rest of the years. And if you spend money out of that, and it comes back as half of that, that's what we put in there, I mean, I don't know any.
Is this all subject to change, because, replacing the carpeting, everything
This
else?
is moving
because-
every year, it changes.
Because, yeah, it could be totally different with the Lee Town Center, or
So every
like, it
fall
could be
we
another
read-
building.
Yep, every year we change
So
it.
you just adjust as you go?
Yeah, it's just a planning aid.
Okay.
You're talking by each
Not a
other.
spending tool.
Right, planning aid.
I have just a general question about, is there a reason that we don't escalate across the years for the pricing?
We do at the year, when it comes in. That year is when we upgrade it.
I'm sorry, I don't follow you.
Um,
I mean, we
We cannot project, like if you take, let's say 24, we can't project what the inflation rate will be for 24.
No, I understand that, but I mean, we could arbitrarily say, okay, we know the prices are gonna go up.
He has an
Oh,
inflation built
you're
into
talking
his
about the
formula.
prices, not the trust fund?
No, yeah, I'm talking about the pricing.
Oh, yes, we
The
do.
equipment pricing, for instance, we use 10390 all the way out on the trucks and everything else. I was just wondering why we don't put an escalator in there.
We do.
So when that was put in, it was put in at today's, so when everything is put in at today's dollars. So then when he puts it into the system at today's dollars of $5,000.
Oh, okay.
And if you need it in
That's all.
2025,
I
the
just want to
price
know
will.
what we don't, okay. Fair enough.
Calculate.
But it's just like the
It
inflation, I mean, the inflation and the interest is the same, you know, I mean, you cannot project out how much it's gonna be because it changes periodically, so we always do it at that year, and then it's kind of straight line across, and then the next year you'll do it again, but whatever number's there. And we use the federal government number, so,
Okay.
all right. If I get, there we go. Conservation Department, this is the same old story that we've had for the last, I don't know, 10 years, no, the last 3-4 years. They have that $207,000 in there, and we just keep moving that 1 year, each year. And we move the place where we start depositing into their trust fund 1 year, each year. And that's so that, I guess if I fall dead and everybody forgets it, they automatically start getting some money, but joking.
Let's not joke about such things.
Yeah.
It really is kind of a shell and pea game, more than anything. It's just to make sure that they are ready to buy property if they can buy it, or, you know, whatever, so. But I told them, we don't wanna be depositing in it when you got that kind of money, so. Okay, the police, third year of recommendation. Consider the equipment trust fund for the police department. I don't think I need to explain to you why, but we are now buying things on a regular basis in addition to the patrol car. Patrol car is right now somewhere around $37,000. And those things run up to about $47,000. So we're recommending again that that you guys consider a equipment trust fund for the police department. Because those vehicles are more than $5,000 and they are more than 5 years old. Or they last more than 5 years, let me say it that way.
So right now, he has it in his operational budget to purchase a police vehicles.
So by your definition,
Yes,
it is capital.
yes, correct.
But we're just the builders of the plan, so, you know, you guys have got to carry it forward. We do, this year, we have gone back and taken a good close look at it, and we believe that if you do it, we should start with a $50,000 bill depositing in there for 4 years, and then we could drop it back to $48,000.
Then you would take it out of the budget?
Bob, why would you drop it to 40K?
Because
You're
you're
just spending 47.
Well, you don't buy every year at that rate, so you will have years in which you've got significantly more than that. Other years are gonna be short, but it'll average out, and maybe we'll find that you can't drop it back. But I don't wanna run him where he's got an awful lot of surplus in a trust fund either.
No, either.
So, I mean, you could do it. Problem is that what you're gonna wind up doing is you're gonna start out in time. At some point, you've gotta reduce it, because you just, that just keep building up and building up and building up. And you're not gonna be spending it. And even if it's only $5,000 a year, you know, you're gonna keep, unless you plan on missing 1 year or something, but. You know, we went through that one time before, and it hurt the police department. So I really would rather not do that if I can avoid it. And again, it's only a recommendation. I mean, it's not a. Okay, so, I mean, this is their plan. You'll see it in the full sheets that you have to work with. Recreation. I think we're coming to the end. This year, there's nothing to be spent out of it. And then there's a couple more years there where I think they got shrubbery or something in there. I would, maybe it's premature, but I would like to think that after we've spent all this money on a park and if we manage to spend the money to upgrade the tennis courts and a couple things like that, that we will maintain them. And so it may be that this shouldn't go away, but should be significantly reduced so that there's money there. Again, that's a thoughtless recommendation, because I mean, I just really have not gone through it at all. It's just that it's pleasing me to see that the thing is getting finished up finally. And
I assume you met with them?
Nope,
no,
Okay, because he was just here and he wants $10,000.
first we heard about it
we,
right now.
we ask him every year, and he points the finger at you guys and says you're in charge, and won't come to the meeting, so you know, what am I gonna do?
Larry,
Because he's talking
Larry
about
Kimber.
Larry Kinberg.
a tennis court refurbishment for 30 to 40,000. And I think that's wicked low for doing a tennis court.
Yes.
So,
Well, of course, that probably would depend on how you do it.
well, you get the Massway kids out there to do it for 40,000.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get it done for that.
That's it.
So,
That
That's
they're-
really not gonna get done.
Give me a number and I'll put it in there. I really, I have no grounds to put anything different in there.
I've seen 60 to 100,000 to do.
Is that the tennis court that exists in poor condition
Right
right
out
next to
front of
the
the-
school? Is
Yeah,
that the
someone
one?
else was talking about putting it down Little River Park instead.
Yeah.
And just freeing up that
Right.
space over there, but nothing's been decided.
That would be,
No matter where you stick it, it's not ready for $40,000.
I think putting it down here.
You know, Scott, I don't want you to think I'm taking it personally, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that, I mean, these numbers are the department head's numbers, not our numbers.
Well, my question was, have you talked to them? Obviously, you invited them, but they say it's really the board's, not their responsibility. Which begs the question, why did he just come here and say he wants $10,000 for the trust funds, because the tennis courts cost $30,000 or $40,000?
Well, we've talked about this court a couple of times over
Yeah.
the years. Shouldn't we just get a price so we know what we're talking about when we, you know? I mean, why don't we have somebody go out there and give us an estimate?
They did,
The
they said they
original,
did.
this price they originally got for us from somebody.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they did a couple of years ago.
And that's what this number
Last
is?
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old number,
It's a
but
low number.
Yeah.
it's, they gave it to us
Couple of years
originally.
ago.
Plus, we're
All
not-
these numbers were given to us by the department, not.
Prior to asphalt increases.
I'm just trying to get to the validity of the number. I don't-
Yeah, it
Yeah,
came from
you
Larry, it came from the rec commission.
The other thing we never
said
figured
you got
out
a
was
couple
it's not a
estimates.
regulation size court.
It is
The
not.
current
So the
one.
question is,
The
the
current
current
one.
one, is this to renovate and end up with an updated version of what we have, or is this to?
No, brand new in Little River Park.
It was
That's the
to
wrong
be,
number.
it was to be official size.
Really, for
Yes.
$30,000?
For this price.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Really?
He said, did he say 40?
But Carrie, that number was a
That's
while
old.
ago number.
That's an old.
That's the original number that was in there.
Quantify it a little bit for me and.
10 years, 12 years old.
Oh, that old?
No,
When
not
did
that
we
old.
start this, 2007?
Eight
2008?
was the
So
first one.
10 years.
10 years.
Okay, so, obviously.
That was Jarf Carlton, Don Jeans, and
They were talking about it back then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, it comes down to a discussion as
And then we can
one,
talk about things for a while.
will the tennis court be utilized if it's, let's say it's 40,000, you know, how much,
Build it and they will come.
how much you need?
Build it, they will
Really?
come, yeah.
I don't know. You don't have anybody using the current one because it's in such rotten condition, so.
Well,
So they go to Durham, they go to Fog.
Wow.
Drive
They are
over
using it.
Durham.
It's not as big as it was at the
I'm
70s.
telling you.
They use the current one?
They use the current,
I don't
well,
think
right
tennis
now,
is
the
as big a draw
construction
as it
that's
used
going
to
on in
be.
Nashville.
Now it's soccer and
Yeah, you're right.
lacrosse and.
Okay.
Well, then, that goes back to the question in terms of when department heads put things on here, at some point, and we've already talked about it, it's a planning tool. Some of this stuff we're planning for, and we're putting money aside for it. What if the powers that be say, well, we don't want to include that in the plan? Because we're saving for something we're never gonna buy, why are we doing that?
Agreed.
So at some point, I think the board has to go through each of these and
And
maybe
struggle.
hear about,
They need to update it.
And say, okay, we're only gonna fund 5,000 of that 25 because we don't want it.
and I'm not picking on any particular group or whatever, I'm just saying, we need to go through and do some culling in terms of, are we going to be doing this in the future? Because everybody wants everything, and you can't afford
Well,
everything,
it's-
so what do we need to do?
Well, I
The
mean, that-
CIP is just advisory to the board
I
anyway.
understand that, but we're putting money aside though, John, in anticipation of buying those things.
but understand too, in all fairness to the committee here, I mean, we are asking those questions
Okay.
to the people who attend the meeting. It's, the problem that we have with this one is we can't even get him to answer a phone call.
Well, if you were here 45 minutes before, yeah.
He was on a phone call.
He was in
He was on a
China.
phone call, so we couldn't.
He was ranting.
Oh.
All right.
All right, where we go? Oh, you skipped one. eh?
Well, I think
Town
I did.
buildings.
Yeah, no, I go back.
Here, second one down.
Yeah. I can't, yeah, I
You can't get there.
Ooh, yeah, there we go.
all right, town buildings.
Julie.
Actually, there's one
You wanna go
before
back
that.
again? For your
One before
summary?
it.
Add 3 new furnaces. Oh, you're missing one.
What happened?
Missing this one.
You got this one here.
What does that one say?
That's like the summary page that you put in front of
Add
us.
3 new furnaces, add the roof.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
there it is.
Yeah, here it is, over there.
No.
It was reduced to fire.
So somehow you got this one.
Maybe it's after. Oh, there was it after?
No?
Nope.
I don't know, I must not have, I don't,
This one got lost somewhere.
Well, we got it.
Yeah, we have it.
well, good. Tell me what it says.
It's added 3 new furnaces. And then it also says added in a new roof for the annex, but as well as 1 furnace may not be needed if the town hall goes forward. And finally added replacement for a fire pump at the recycle center.
Some of those things we took out of the, like the fire pump. That came out of the recycle center and moved over to here.
Okay.
Primarily because our understanding is we want to keep all of the building aspects in one fund. And so there are, I think, 3 or 4 items that we moved over.
I believe that was actually a new one. That was,
Fire pump
that's
is
the
brand new.
fire
No,
pump
I
to
know.
fund the sprinkler
I
system.
know, but he put it in his plan and then we moved it.
We moved
over.
it, yeah.
Okay.
But nobody has ever budgeted for that.
No.
That's the fire suppression system
Right.
pump.
What the heck do I
And then
do?
the furnaces are just, it's okay, Bob.
I guess it's gonna have to be because I don't know how to get out of it. So anyway, we're in the wrong view. That's the problem.
It's all right.
and nobody can read anything, but.
I would like to have a discussion.
Go up top, see up where it says display settings?
Yeah, we're in the top,
Yeah,
right
there you
there.
go.
And go down one line, right there.
No, that's what you're on.
Duplicate, yes, do them both.
Can you click on the top one? I can't read it, so I'm just guessing.
No, I can't.
Swap. Presenter
It doesn't allow me
view.
to.
How about escape? When in doubt, hit escape.
The hell's escape?
The keyboard's by you, Karen. It's in there.
Well,
So you're way down here,
Now
21,
I
right?
understand what happened here.
There you go.
So that moved over.
Mhm.
We decided that,
Fire pump.
That's what they said moved over to here.
That was that suppression system.
And once again, does he have a suppression system now?
no.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he does. He does have that now.
Correct.
Yes.
This will be replacing the one he had, if the one he has fails.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, I mean, this is built up, but we're still containing it. And you know, the sad part about it is we still don't really have a good handle on all of what the trust fund should be covering, because, you know, I mean, we know how many buildings, although we don't either, because they built a new building down at the Little River Park that we don't have in our plan, but it's a roof and 4 walls, I believe.
The
Talking about the.
you mean where the
One
pump
down-
house, where the,
One way down at the end of where the road turns and goes off across the field.
yeah,
There's a building right there.
yes.
Oh, that's the shed.
Oh, but it's a building. You know,
building.
you got a roof and 4 walls or windows or whatever.
It's got the sprinkler system and the pump, and
Yeah,
the roof works and
That's
that's
not what he's
so on.
talking about.
Oh, that's not the one he's talking
Oh,
about?
He's
no.
talking about the one where Littler, Oyster River Youth stores their stuff.
Yeah, the shed.
That's it.
It's right there by the soccer field.
Oh, okay, yes.
It's not ours.
Yes, this is
It's
Oyster
Oyster
River.
River Youth Association.
Yeah, so it's not, you're not shed.
Oh, isn't it?
No.
Okay, well, then we won't put it in the plan.
But you do have the pump, the pump house is there, that's,
They'd be happy if you'd leave it in there for them.
that's where,
No, I think we have that.
you have the pump house?
I think. I'd have to go back and look to be sure.
Rob, other years
Yep.
when we've talked about buildings, you said that you hadn't finished them, finished the spreadsheets. Do you feel a little more comfortable about that now?
No.
No? Okay.
We now have all of Randy's information, which we didn't have before. And so that should help us, but I mean, it's a long, you know, I mean, it takes you crawling down and sometimes underneath the floor.
And some of the issues with that too is that some of them don't meet the definition of what the trustees of the trust funds call the capital expenses either. So it's an exercise that doesn't exactly mingle with capital expenses, so it's kind of
And,
like.
and did you talk to Chief Nemeth about the swap off of decreasing the cistern program to put money into
Yeah.
some of these other programs? Because I'm very concerned about that, to be honest with you. They took money out of, there's money, there's a reduction in the cistern program, if I read that bullet correctly, and they moved that money over
Yes.
into, I think, the transfer station requirements or whatever. And I wondered if if Chief Nemeth had seen that, and if he has any comments about that.
He has no comments about it. As long as he's able to spend the money that he needs.
Well,
And we,
I'm worried about the cistern program myself. That program moves very, very, very slowly. So I just.
well, let me give you some advice there.
Go
I
ahead.
talked to Mr. Nimick about that. Because they're in there when they want them in
I
there.
understand. I'm not,
three of our big expenses out of that cistern plan was the 3 fire ponds that have already been done.
yeah.
So our plan is to maintain them yearly, so we don't have to spend $40,000 out of whack. Like, I've already asked this young gentleman in town who bought a tree cutter that goes on an excavator bucket to give us a price to go to James Farm in the spring and to cut all those trees. So when we so we won't have to spend $35,000 to dredge that in 10 years. It will be, if we maintain them twice a year by mowing them.
I understand.
And trim the trees, so it should affect, if it works perfect, hopefully in a perfect world, we can just put those new cisterns in and be done with it, and not have to dredge fire
Just
ponds
maintain
again.
it.
No, I understand. That's what my point is, though, is we're taking money out of the cistern fund and moving it over to a transfer station or whatever. And I just want to, I would really like us to focus on keeping the plan for the cisterns to get that done, as you just said.
I absolutely understand what you're saying, and I don't believe that, I think reducing them, we can still get them done
Okay.
at the time schedule.
Okay.
Now, if they're all moved up, I'm just arbitrarily saying you move them all up to the next 4 years,
Yeah.
one right after another, there's not enough money in there, and we have to go back and take care of that.
Right.
But as long as we stay to that plan that's there, which is their plan, not ours, we're in good shape. As a matter of fact, we probably could take out some more money in another year or two, but I'm not ready to do that.
Like, there's currently $180,000 in there right now.
Yeah,
In
and a
round numbers.
cistern is 80,000.
Right, so we have enough money to do the Lee Hook and Burley Demerit Farm according to this plan. In 2021, in 2021, we'll have 204,000. So we'll have plenty of money.
Okay.
But like Bob said, if they wanted to move it up, we have to put more in there. Or, if that's what this board decides, they can put more in there too. You guys have the final say on what goes in here, you three.
Right. That's
I mean,
why-
our plan, the way we run the plan is if everything was perfect, the deposits in the trust fund would be flat, right straight across. And we would get everything that the managers want when they want it. Ain't gonna happen. But that's what the plan would be. So we look at multiple things. Can we move something out to get it flat? And so we have those discussions with those guys. But what happens is that when you start a new plan, you put a lot of money in the upfront so that you can take care of those early things, and then you try to start tapering it down to some point where it's nice and flat. And believe it or not, in 10 years, we've got it so that they're pretty close to being flat.
But I understand, but we had a plan that had a layout for a cistern program in there. And now we've taken money out of that program and moved it somewhere else. That impacts the schedule, it has to.
But it looks like,
It's not.
Well, maybe it was being overfunded.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because they
It
have
was-
enough
Because you took
budget.
yeah, like, we were putting away more than we needed to.
Okay.
So the schedule hasn't changed that he originally wanted, and there's plenty of money in there.
Okay, all right.
If he moves it up, it's not gonna work,
Gotcha.
but,
Well, actually, it may even work one or two,
right.
but
Okay.
Because years ago, it wasn't enough money in there at all, so we ramped it up and added a lot, and now we can cut back.
Okay.
Can we add one thing
No.
in your department?
Oh, my department, sure.
Can we add a new printer? 'Cause this is
Yeah,
not
it was-
very good.
I noticed that,
Yeah, what
but
happened?
not for nothing, for 5 cents a copy.
Ink,
5 cents a copy, you can deal with it.
I couldn't read, that's why I want an electronic copy,
Absolutely.
so. But yeah,
Sure.
you need a new printer, or whatever it is.
I think it's just the ink, right? Is it just the ink?
It was from the printer.
I just-
Copier. Yeah, I had 11 copies to print. It was weird, I don't know
In
what
your
happened.
office?
Yeah.
In your office?
Yeah, I don't know why that happened, I have no idea. Yeah, because it wasn't, I didn't run it through the copier, I printed it from the computer, which is different.
I wonder if the ink was going.
But these came out fine.
It looks like there's actually
Sure, you
something
gave us the
written.
crappy version, so.
There's writing.
You're gonna get these.
I know, it's weird, I don't know.
Okay, so the only thing on this page is
Yeah.
not been talked about, and that is that the overall CIP is about 2% increase from year to year.
That's what you want.
It would be nice, in 2025, I think it is, that where they drop, that's when the bonds are all paid off. So it'd be nice if we waited until 2025 to get the bonds for the new building. But in all honesty, I mean, we're getting down there now. Some of this also out in time is what I refer to as planners group. And you know, in all honesty, the managers can't see that far out, you know, and so it happens, you know. And as we get closer, all of a sudden they say, oh, I need, or, you know, that kind of thing, and so that does happen. So that's it.
Good job.
Thank you. Nice.
And if you could get Larry.
I have no control over that.
Now, what is this?
If he doesn't visit you, he doesn't get the money, that's all.
The highlights you just saw.
Well,
you know,
I agree with that,
For
Jack.
you to take home for your
Very own.
very own reading enjoyment.
Oh, there we go.
Wow. This
No, you've
is,
got this memorized.
this is
Yeah,
really
no,
nice.
you got it. There we go.
See how yours.
That was a copy of the presentation as you for all the hard work that they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful
Thank you
job.
very much.
As you heard, the copies didn't come out that way.
And to the boss, Karen.
And to the boss, that's right.
Introduced as the boss.
This doesn't include police trust fund, right?
No, it does not.
Oh, don't forget your stick.
On a summary level, how much do we usually put in the town building?
That's it?
We'll change this.
Are we all set? Is there more questions?
I had a question about the, if we're gonna talk about the, and this may not be the forum, because it may not be this group's decision. We usually put some money in the town center, in the town reserve funds.
Town building.
Town building reserve.
If we're going to be.
Thank you.
Thank you. If we're going to be introducing a warrant article for the building issue.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank
Will that amount still get put in the trust fund for this year?
Thanks, come, Mike.
Do you mean the town building capital reserve fund?
Right.
Well, that pays for a lot of things, not just,
Yeah.
it wouldn't just, it's not just there for the town center project.
I knew that.
Yeah.
But I'm just
No,
thinking about money and.
We should probably keep putting money,
We should do that.
because a roof will fail, a furnace will fail,
Something always
something else
fails.
will fail.
That's not one of the sources of cash that you guys were talking about at the town center meeting today, was it?
It
that
was.
one? It was one, that,
There's a
okay.
piece of that.
Okay, that's what I thought, so.
It's in there buried.
Okay.
Buried.
And you'll get a presentation at our next meeting from the Town Center Vision in terms of where we are. The board also, some of you were there, in terms of what we assigned or asked or directed, some verb, in terms of for the Town Center Vision Committee to go ahead with. So the project is 4.1 with a $3 3/4 million bond, utilizing other funds in the town building, one of them. One of the other things we talked about is doing the new municipal building, doing the new library addition and renovation, and then putting some money aside for the town hall renovation
Right.
in anticipation of getting some grants. So taking $100,000 out of someplace, taxation or someplace, so that they, when they go for grants, they can say, okay, we have this seed money. Usually they ask for a 50% match. The plan does not include doing anything to the annex or the Historical Society building except moving it. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Do you?
No, I think that's good.
Anything, so, but right at the moment, we're working with, trying to get a meeting with the DOT guy to find out what access we can get from Mass Road. That will dictate in terms of where parking lots are. Having a conversation with the chief, Chief Nemeth, in terms of parking, how parking lots are laid out, where the cistern can go, life safety issues. So that's what we're working on at the moment. So the presentation on the 27th is not gonna be, there's not gonna be too many more numbers than what we've already seen presented. I think it's it. So, and we'll see how that flies.
We'll see. Good for nice.
About our next meeting, we have a joint presentation for the fire department and McGregor. Now, the gentleman that's come past here is retired, right?
Yes.
So who's doing the McGregor thing now?
Chris Lemon,
Okay, so,
he was the number 2 person, so he got promoted to the,
well, we have enough time, is 3/4 of an hour enough time for the fire department and the ambulance?
I think so.
Usually
McGregor,
it's
generally
pretty quick.
speaking, McGregor moves pretty fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
What's a new guy, that's why I was,
like, he's good.
he's not a new guy, okay.
No, he's been there for a long time. He's been the number 2 for a while.
Okay.
Julie, I have a question for you about the, since we talked about the land acquisition fund there, that they're not putting more money into it. The land acquisition fund, land use change fund, is there any different stipulation how that money's used? I know it's the purchase property.
There might be, honestly, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go back to the original warrant article language to see whether there's a difference in those two things. I mean, they have obviously 2 different funding sources.
Well, yes. One is that we put money into, the other one comes from, but half of it goes to general
Right,
fund.
the other one is the land use change tax.
But there's an awful lot of money set.
Well, that's what I'm saying, when Bob was bringing out the, just so the rest of the committee realizes that, they were talking about the land acquisition, which is what, 232,000, but he's also got 283,000 in the other fund.
$500,000.
So he's got $500,000 sitting there, so he's sitting pretty with respect to land acquisition for conservation purposes.
And as far as the meet, because I attend the conservation, they don't have anything
There's nothing.
that's in the works. You know, things could come up, you know, just like that, but there's nothing that, you know, they're working on at the moment in terms of preserving, so.
Scott, last year when Bill Helm was here, he talked about needing to do some maintenance to one of the pieces of property.
They're working on the Joe Ford.
Joe Ford,
property?
yes,
property,
okay,
yeah.
and he was saying he was gonna need some, remember we were asking him about spending money from his reserve. Are they actually spending some money
Yep.
on that property?
Yeah, and they spent $2,500 for doing a survey with, it's not Atlantic, it's Adam Falls.
Adam Pond.
Yeah.
Adam Falls,
Ford is-
That's Atlanta.
So they just did that. They're doing some,
So he is spending his money, they are spending
yeah.
money.
Well, that was a conversation as well, because, you know, they have 15,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's got more than enough. So they had that discussion, and I chimed in and said, well, in my opinion, you still got more than enough money to do what you need to do. So they kind of decided they wouldn't ask for any money, so.
The same discussion.
This was
last
the
year.
same thing last
Yeah,
year.
Last year.
We zero funded, I think.
Yeah, but he asked for money last year.
Yeah, he asked for it, and then they were all in
Well,
something.
they're actually spending money now on the Joe Ford, so, yes, they are using that, but they get money in too, so.
Yep.
That's the same thing with the Heritage Commission, the Heritage Commission asked for any, but when you've got that money sitting there and they're not using it,
It's a
why
tickler,
give
isn't
them
it?
more? So,
I agree.
and it's not like they're earning large amounts of interest, so let them work on the land that they've got. But of course, that's only my opinion.
Of course. You've already taken it that way, Scott.
Yes. It's just his opinion.
Just his
Just
opinion.
my opinion. Just my opinion. Yes, in the selectmen's classes, they said, make sure you say that so that you're not speaking for
For
the
the-
group.
that's
You're
correct.
speaking only for your-
We're all set.
After
I
things.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh. Okay, that's true.
Aye.
For me.
Thanksgiving.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. All right.